This is Edgar Leon Smith, the Dallas police officer who drew his gun in the films. The films by Couch and Darnell, when they're driving by in the car, they both photograph him. And my JFK adventure investigation, I guess I can call this an investigation, this thing I've been doing, has led me to wonder exactly where was Edgar Leon Smith when the motorcade came by. Fortunately, the Warren Commission talked to him, so somebody else already asked him and got an answer or two. Now, the first answer they got was, 30 to 40 feet south of the south curb of Elm Street, at the east curb of Houston. And I show you Commission Exhibit 354. It has a letter A marked there, and that will be approximately where you were standing. Is that right? That's about where I was. Now, this is the exhibit they're talking about. I've added the color stuff. What this is a photograph from above of Dealey Plaza, and various witnesses wrote numbers and letters there to indicate where they were. Those original markings can't be read, and the Warren Commission itself added these white numbers and letters for publication, and presumably they put them where the witnesses actually wrote the originals. I don't know. You can't see them on there, so we have to depend on that. And the first A is the one on the left. This is the A they're talking about. That's near the intersection of Houston and Elm. And I've crossed it out because the answer changes. And skipping ahead to where the story changes, I heard 3 shots. I guess they were shots. I thought that the first 2 were just firecrackers and kept my position, and after the third one, I ran down the street here. You ran down Elm Street? Well, I ran down Houston Street and then to Elm. And actually, I guess it was a little bit further over than this, because after they turned the corner, I couldn't see any of the cars. There were so many people standing there around the corner. So you were a little bit further south down Elm than position A? Yes, possibly a little farther south than that. Yes, I was under these windows here. That's the county building there you're talking about? Yes, a little bit farther down. And a bit farther down, apparently, is where our second A is on the right. In fact, that's so much farther down, you might say he was standing at the other intersection, the intersection of Main and Houston, rather than the intersection of Elm and Houston, because it's much closer to that intersection. But the second story here has some problems. And those problems are the photography. We have pretty good coverage of this side of the street in the photography. And this is up at the corner from Main to Houston. And there is a police officer on the right there wearing a white hat, as Officer Smith does. But we know who that is. He's the guy wearing the raincoat. And that's not our boy. And there's nobody else in this photograph who could be Edgar. And a little further down along that same building, there's no policeman standing there, all the way down to the Rowlands. Arnold and Barbara. Edgar's not in this photo. And this Willis photo is a bit overexposed, but if you study it carefully, you'll see that there's no white-hatted cop there either. There is, in the middle there's a dark area along the side. There's actually somebody who is wearing what looks like a police uniform, but he's wearing a blue hat or a dark hat. It's not Edgar. And also he's wearing different colored pants, so I don't think it's a Dallas cop. The sheriff's department, I think, does have some uniformed people. Perhaps it's that, or perhaps he's a security guard that works at that building. But anyway, Edgar is not in this photo. And if you watch the films, you'll see that there is no police officer standing beside this building. And then if you look at all the way down this Altgens 4 or Altgens 5 photograph, there's no police officer visible on this side of the street until you get all the way down to the end of the photo. But that cop isn't actually standing south of the intersection. He's north of the intersection, And that's not even where Edgar said he was. And in fact, according to the testimony of Joe Marshall Smith, another Smith, that's him standing there. So the photographic evidence, although you can't say his absence from it necessarily proves he wasn't on that side of the street, it's really good coverage, and it would be surprising if he was anywhere along the east side of Houston Street. I just noticed while I was watching that, here's that guy I was talking about before who was in the dark area. This is from a different angle, so the dark area isn't behind him, but this is the guy with the wrong colored pants to be a Dallas cop, and he has the dark hat. Whoever that is, it's not Edgar Smith. But then there's the Towner film, and lo and behold, the cop appears right where he was supposed to be in the first place. This is very close to the A on that exhibit. This is the very corner that he said he was standing on, and in the Towner film, he's there. But this is the first story that he abandoned in his Warren Commission testimony. He first said he was there at the corner where the left-hand A is, but then he said he was further down the street, that he had to run down the street to get to the corner. So there's something funny going on here. Now you might think that this cop that appears in the Altgens 5 photo that I showed earlier, you might think because of camera angles that that's really this guy, because it's pretty close. It's just on the other side of the street. But that's not the case. If we let the film run a little more, the view shows us the other side of the street, and there's the cop on the other side of the street. That's the one you can see in the Altgens photograph. You can't see the one on the south side of the street in the Altgens photograph. But you can see him in the Zapruder film too. In the Towner film and the Zapruder film, there appears to be a police officer standing on the southeast corner here. But you can't see him anywhere else, and I mean in any other photography. And there's only 3 police officers assigned to this intersection. One was Welcome Eugene Barnett, and he can be seen in the Towner film also, standing in the street, in Houston Street. The other is Joe Marshall Smith, as I just pointed out. You can see him on the northeast corner of the intersection. And Edgar Leon Smith said in his Warren Commission that he was way up the street. He had to run down to get to the corner. But this guy, whoever he is already at the corner, and he's not. There's no other police officers assigned to this intersection. Very strange. Now, what got me going on this was Arnold Roland, of all people. Arnold Roland can be seen on Houston Street. He's right there. And among other things, he told the Warren Commission, there was, just before I observed him, he's talking about the man with a gun he saw on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. There was a police motorcycle parked just on the street, not in front of us, just a little past us, and the radio was on it giving the details of the motorcade. Now, I'm very interested in the activities of the motorcycle police, so of course I went looking for this motorcycle, and when you look for things, you find them. Whether they're there or not, you find them. But I found it. It looks like to me, it's not definite, but in front of these 2 black women wearing the babushkas, there is what looks like the outline of a motorcycle windshield. And it's kind of hard to make out anything else, though it looks like there might be on the left one of the handlebars sticking out. And I was thinking, aha! There's a motorcycle there that you can just barely see. And looking around in that same photograph, the Altgens 5, further down on the left, there's what appears to be a police officer with a motorcycle helmet down there. This is the only photography I could find him in, but it looks like we've got a motorcycle cop down there and perhaps a motorcycle up here, and it's like he's waiting for the time when he's going to go to his motorcycle to do something. That's what I was thinking. And if you notice where this motorcycle is that I see, whether it's there or not, it's right under that street light there. So I know you can see this corner from the Zapruder film, and I went looking there to see if I could see the motorcycle. But instead of seeing a motorcycle, I saw a police officer right there where the motorcycle looks like it is in the Altgens photograph. And if you'll notice, that street light is the yellow pole to the left of the police officer. So this police officer, who is visible only in the Zapruder film and the Towner film, and nothing else that he should be visible in, just happens to be right where I see a motorcycle in the Altgens photograph. And that makes me think that this police officer might have been inserted into the Zapruder film and the Towner film in order to cover a motorcycle or part of a motorcycle that would be visible. And that would explain perhaps why Edgar Smith said he was down by the corner, but when he really wasn't. Perhaps he was told to say that by somebody who knew about this motorcycle issue, who knew that they had pasted in a police officer there, and they perhaps wanted him to say that that's where he was. So only 3 officers were assigned to this intersection at Houston and Elm. Barnett is accounted for. He's next to the Texas School Book Depository building in Houston Street. Smith number 1, Joe Smith, is accounted for. He's at the the northeast corner of the intersection. And the other Smith, our Smith, Edgar Smith, according to his own account, cannot be the cop on the southeast corner. So I think there was not a cop on the southeast corner. I think he was put there to hide the motorcycle. That is, I think he was inserted through the magic of editing into the Towner film here, and also into the Zapruder film, because if he hadn't been, then you would have been able to see a piece of a motorcycle. And I think they asked Officer Edgar Smith to say he was on that corner, but because of the way he told his story, he had to admit he ran down Houston Street, and if he ran down Houston Street, he couldn't have been already down Houston Street. So I don't think there's a cop there. I think he's only there in these 2 films and nowhere else. And of course, I don't think they were hiding the motorcycle for no reason. I think there was a motorcycle officer who was part of the assassination plan, and that this was planned, and that the motorcycle was left there, and the police officer was ready to go into action after the president had been shot. But that's beyond the scope of this video, which is already closing in on 14 minutes. So that's all.